This particular story comes from a game that I'm not DMing, but I'm actually a player in. On this channel I've already talked about Lear, but I haven't introduced you to the rest of his party. So let me give you a very quick rundown. We have Rogar, the greedy dragonborn paladin. Anna, a high elf fighter barbarian who ran away from her army. Arnvid, the human full-blooded barbarian who just wants to fish. And Aya, the wood elf druid who wants so bad to become a dragon. Together with Lear, the edgy human sorcerer, who's in desperate need of therapy, they are the Golden Caravan. The adventure starts the way a lot of real-life adventures do, with the need to pay off debt. Rogar was out shopping with Anna and Arnvid for new equipment, and that's when he saw a suit of magical full plate that he knew he needed. But looking into his wallet, he didn't have enough money, so he did what any adventurer would do. He picked up his sending stone and told the party they were going on a mission. Meeting up at a quest board, the party found a mission that paid very handsomely for only taking on one monster, and decided they should take it, but not before doing what we always do, and is the one thing you should always do: research. And it was a good thing we did, because if we'd gone at this thing guns a-blazing, it would have TPK'd us for sure. The monster we were tasked with killing? A Boneclaw. For the uninitiated, a Boneclaw is this horrible monstrosity, and is a failed lich who binds itself to the person with the most evil in its heart within 1 mile of its failed transformation. Now you can kill one of these things pretty easy, the first time. But the thing that makes the Boneclaw so terrifying is that even after dying, it reforms a number of hours. Not days, not months, but hours. So you can down it the first time, but eventually it's going to wear your health and abilities thin and kill you while you're trying to take a long rest. But it is not as unstoppable as I've made it out to be. There is one way to kill it permanently. You have to find its host and either redeem them or kill them. But because life is never easy, there's one more wrinkle. The host might not even know they're a host. They could have this terrifying machine of death working off their subconscious and brutally slaughtering anyone the host even remotely dislikes. Armed with this knowledge, and jumping on the quest before the death list had gotten too long, we asked about the victims, trying to find one who knew the least amount of people. And lucky for us, one of the victims was a cleaner who was new in town, narrowing down our search to just 10 houses. We spent the day asking the families, trying to find the one person who knew all the victims and hated them. This was a long process, interviewing 10 families, and during it Arnvid's player had to leave, so now it was just the 4 of us. Once we finished our interviews, our findings were less than savory, since there were 2 options. It was either a child named Miles, who we knew from interviewing the other kids was a bully, or was it a crotchety old man named Dale. Now, out of character, I really don't want to kill a child or an old man, but for backstory reasons, Lear doesn't know the difference between a child, an adult, or an old person. So he was thinking of just killing them and getting it over with. Luckily, he was promptly talked out of it and told by Aya that he really needs to seek therapy at some point. Nightfall. We've interviewed everyone and went Boneclaw hunting. At this point, we didn't really know how long it would take for it to reincarnate, so we thought if we could kill it, we could spare an innocent life that night. Instead, we were the ones who almost died. In our first fight, we dispatched with the Boneclaw rather quickly. The scene was epic. Aya melting the monster with beams of sunlight, Anna charging him with her lance, Rogar with his greatsword, and Lear with his shadow dogs and magic missiles. After the fight, we decided to try and get some sleep in a tree, with someone on watch who could raise the alarm. Lo and behold, 2 hours later, the Boneclaw reformed. Having fewer spell slots and abilities for the second fight, we approached it cautiously, following the Boneclaw as it walked down the river slowly, blissfully unaware that it knew we were stalking it. That's when we got too close, we got too cocky. It teleported behind Anna, grabbing her. Then before anyone could act, it teleported away. This was the start of a horribly deadly fight. The Boneclaw was smart, and immediately got out of range of our paladin, who simply could not catch up to the creature. So it was up to the 2 spellcasters, Aya controlling the trees and grass, to whip and restrain the monster, Lear summoning shadow dogs on top of the Boneclaw to assault it. But that left Anna taking the full brunt of the Boneclaw's attacks, plus extra damage whenever it teleported, which it did. Every round. Further away. Down a river. But as we were fighting, we noticed a bigger problem. The Boneclaw wasn't just teleporting down a riverbank. It was teleporting down a riverbank that ended in a waterfall and it was getting close. Here's the part of the story where I tell you that we got lucky max damage on a spell, or that Enna was able to escape. And I would tell you that. But what happened was so much cooler. The Boneclaw completes its goal of teleporting Enna off the waterfall, and in midair it disappears, cackling. The unconscious and dying Enna falls, presumably to the river. And that's when Aya swan dives, casting control water and catching both her and the free-falling Enna in a cube of water 100 foot on all sides. Pulled from the very waterfall itself, bringing Enna back from the brink of death and back to the safety of the shore. But at this point, we knew we couldn't handle another fight. Both Aya and Lear were almost out of spell slots, and Enna had already been making death saves without any hit dice for a short rest, so we had to take a long rest and let the Boneclaw kill its target for the night, lest we all die, and then countless others. So we huddled back up on our tree and got to sleeping. It was at that point that Rogar's player had to leave, and yes, that means we completed the mission for his magic armor without him, and yes, that means we probably won't let him live it down, since in-game he left for drinks with Arnvid when he couldn't catch up with the Boneclaw. After our good night's sleep, we needed both to relax and to find out who the target was. So, we headed to the bathhouse for a spa day and information gathering. One relaxation later, we found a very key piece of information. The kid's father hadn't been seen, and in that instant, we knew it was Miles. And with killing him off the table, we had one option. We had to scare him straight. Here's how that went down. The party arrives at the kid's house, and making our way inside, we see the boy, the host, playing with his sister. Lear starts talking to the kids while Aya goes upstairs to check on the parents. And that's when she sees the father, holding the bloody mess of his wife, the boy's stepmother. She then comes down and reports this to Lear. Lear gets Petit, his fairy dragon, to distract the little girl by getting her to feed Petit an apple, and says, "Miles, come with me." Lear and Miles walk up the stairs, and Lear flings open the door to the boy's father. Miles is traumatized, and that's when Lear says this: "Do you see what hate does? Take a good, long, hard look at this. This is what your hate is doing to people. Do you understand?" Here's the thing. I've done this, the whole hating people bit, the intimidation, the bullying. I've been there, and I don't care how you feel about it, because look at what it's doing. Some people have a bad day. I've had a bad life. If I want something, it's taken from me. If I win a fight, I lose the war. Threats only work on someone who has something to lose. But me, I've already lost everything. And you really can't be any good at this, because you're still too young to understand what real, seething hate is. But even though the people you've killed are, you're not beyond saving. However, it is my job to make sure that this doesn't happen again. So the way I see it, there are really only two options. One, I end you, here and now, without a second thought. Or two, you get to move on. You get to live another day. But you move on following the straight and narrow. It's your choice. But you really have to make it soon, because I don't have all day. This does the trick. Miles, seeing the bloodied and mutilated corpse of his stepmother, and knowing that it is his fault, has a change of heart. He cries, and as Miles cries, wisps of the dark and twisted soul leave him, as he repents in the only way a child knows how, crying and promising. Seeing the job is done, Lear leaves, telling Miles one last piece of advice. Once she's out of here, love your dad and whoever he settles with. Straight and narrow, kiddo. Straight and narrow. And that's a story of how the Golden Caravan dealt with the Boneclaw, and probably traumatized a child for life. But hey, all that trauma might just make him into an adventurer one day. Thank you for listening.